Do you know what Alex Hormozi, Marie Forleo, Stephen Bartlett, they all have in common? They teach you exceptionally well business strategies and productivity tips. But if you do not implement all those tips and strategies, they mean nothing. You can watch endless YouTube videos about how to sell, how to communicate effectively, and how to stop procrastination. But nothing matters if you do not implement those tactics and strategies. In fact, implementation is not a business problem, it's a mindset problem. To succeed, you have to change your psychology, your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors. In simple words, you need an identity change, not another anti-procrastination tip. Many popular business creators online, they are excellent communicators. They're able to share and simplify very complex concepts and communicate them very well. But there is a very crucial gap, which is human psychology, ourself, our mindset, our behaviors, our emotions, our thoughts. Those things get in the way. Very successful influencers and communicators, they assume that you have all the inner strategies and skills that you need to implement what they preach. Things like self-awareness, behavioral self-regulation, ability to delay gratification, confidence in yourself and in your abilities to succeed. And this is because high achievers often share some of these traits, tools, and psychological skills that they have somehow developed throughout their childhood and adolescence, or they have developed through their career and business life. Unfortunately, all of this doesn't automatically transfer to you when you're listening to their business tactics and strategies. So the question is, how can you build the psychological tools, mental strength, and processes that will help you implement all these very useful tactics, strategies, and knowledge so that you can apply them into your life, into your business, and then succeed in what you want to achieve. So in this video, we're going to focus on self-awareness and psychological flexibility so that you can really develop those skills and shape your identity and mental strength in a way that is aligned with your goals, desires, and ambitions. But why identity matters? So these famous entrepreneurs, CEOs, influencers, they operate from a standpoint of having a clear identity. They show consistent patterns of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to copy them or become like them, not at all, but it means that you need to develop inner resources, inner skills that will allow you to operate as the person that you want to be. So let's make an example. If you want to lose 10 kilos, then of course you need to put in place certain behaviors. For example, you need to eat less junk food, eat more healthy food, have a calorie deficit. You need to increase your energy expenditure. You need to exercise more, and so forth. All these are behaviors that you need to implement consistently over a long period of time. Well, you need a psychology that helps you implement these behaviors even when life gets messy. The same is true in business, for relationships, for productivity, for personal growth. Your identity must support the decisions that you make, the goals that you strive for. So let's focus on self-awareness. What is it and how can we develop self-awareness? So simply put, self-awareness is a skill, is the ability that you have to understand your feelings and emotions, understand how you behave and why, especially in challenging situations. In a way, we are all biased about ourselves simply because we live in our own minds and we know what's happening inside us. So that's why most of the time, and I would say the majority of people, the majority of us need some structured reflection and also objective feedback if possible. In fact, think for a moment about that discussion with your partner in which you tried to say something and then he or she received what you said in a completely different way. Well, that's exactly proof of low self-awareness in that specific situation. Now, how can we increase our self-awareness? Well, we can try to reflect upon our internal processes, upon our psychology, upon our emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And there is a very useful tool that you can use for doing that. It's called the ABC exercise. It's used in cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a very, very effective tool to reflect upon our mental processes, and specifically upon your reaction in certain situations. So here is how you can use it effectively to increase your self-awareness. Take a piece of paper and divide the sheet into 3 columns. So the first column is the antecedents. So here I want you to describe the challenging situation that you faced. What actually happened? Try to describe the situation as objectively as possible, and basically try to explain the context that triggered the negative experience. Then, next step, I want you to focus on the C part, the consequences. The third column. Here, I want you to describe the emotions that you felt in that moment, and also the behaviors that followed, either immediately or later. Basically, I want you to focus on the feelings and the behaviors that occurred after that situation. And finally, we want to focus on the central column, the B part, the beliefs. Here, I want you to describe what actually happened in your mind. What went through your mind? What thoughts did you have? Try to write the exact thoughts, words, self-talk that you had that basically linked the initial situation with the emotional and behavioral consequences. Here we're talking about the thoughts, the belief systems, the negative self-talk, the inner critique that you had, so that all the negative emotions and behaviors followed. Now, when you're done with this description, now there is the moment of reflection. The goal is not to judge your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. It's not to give it any meaning or value, but it's just to understand how your mental process works. There is basically no right or wrong thoughts. It's just that this exercise allows us to better understand and witness and describe our inner processes. So again, the process is to observe and learn about triggering situations, belief and thoughts, and then consequential emotions and behaviors, so that we can better understand our psychology, our mind processes, and therefore we become more self-aware. Okay, so try to do one ABC exercise per day, and then after a week you will have a substantial amount of information, and you will understand that there are some patterns. You will figure out what commonalities are in the triggering situations, what kind of negative self-talk and negative beliefs and self-doubts you have about yourself, and how this is linked with your emotional and behavioral reactions. Okay, so the next psychological skills that we need to develop is psychological flexibility. Psychological flexibility is our skill and ability to stay present, calm, and focused even when situations get challenging, so that we can therefore take action which is based on our values and consistent with our goals and ambitions. So here is a simple image, a simple example to better understand what psychological flexibility is. Imagine that you are a bus driver. In the back, there are noisy passengers, intrusive thoughts, negative emotions, something is happening and is disturbing you. However, you don't have to stop the bus and throw them out. You can still acknowledge that something is happening, but you can still drive the bus in the direction that you want. Being psychologically flexible is a great mental skill to have, because basically that allows us to behave consistently, be aligned with our values, even when we are facing challenging situations. Imagine that you have had a hard day at work. You come back home and you feel the urge to rob the fridge and basically stuff yourself with the first thing that you find. However, with flexibility, you can notice and understand your mental state, these feelings, emotions, and urges, then you are able to put in place some action that is more effective for what you want to achieve. For example, having a healthy diet, meaning that you can decide to decompress, take a walk, or maybe do a workout, or just have a big hug with your partner, with your kids, and therefore calm down and then stick to your diet plan. Okay, so psychological flexibility is a very big topic. I will do another video about it. But still, here are two practical examples of how we can become more psychologically flexible. First, acceptance. When you do the ABC tool and become more self-aware, you basically will understand things about yourself that you might not like. You will see patterns of trigger thoughts, emotions, behaviors that might not be exactly what you expected or what you want for yourself. So we need to accept that there are weaknesses in us, that there are parts of us that we do not like. That's okay. Accept what you discover. Now you have a very important information, you have a starting point, and you can really work to change something if that something is important for you. And then step 2 is what is called committed action. So because now you have more information and you have a truthful starting point, now you can choose to take actions that are more aligned with your goals and values. You can reflect and write down a few different actions that you can take in different situations that are more aligned with who you want to be, who you want to become, and therefore will guide you in putting in place the right behaviors that are behaviors of the person that you want to be. Now, let's put everything together and move from insights and knowledge to action. The main point is that you can study every business model and strategy and productivity tips on YouTube, but you need to implement those strategies to be successful and achieve your goals. But if you don't address your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, then you will default to your old patterns, especially after the first burst of motivation fades. And that's why new routines most of the time revert back to baseline. So to change that, you must change your identity, your self-narrative, so that they will be more aligned and effective in supporting your life goals. And you can do that by becoming more self-aware and psychologically flexible. Use the ABC for a couple of weeks, practice acceptance, then take small value-aligned actions and repeat. And that's how you become the person that actually implements the strategies and tactics that you already know. And by the way, if you want to learn more about confidence and how to eliminate self-doubt, I've made this video here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a big help for me and the channel. And get after it. I'll see you in the next video.